Hey there, it's Marley Majcher. Before we dig in, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that bell because you definitely don't want to miss another glorious disaster here on Every Day's a Train Wreck. Because missing an episode, now that would be a train wreck. Let's get to it. Hello, everybody. It's Marley Majcher, and welcome to another episode of Every Day's a Train Wreck. So this time it's just me solo. I've been doing so many interviews and I thought it was kind of time to just check in and let you guys know what's going on. So here's the thing. I just spent almost 3 weeks. In fact, I'm still here in Marbella traveling pretty much for business, but from a cruise to Madrid and Marbella. And I realized something that kind of honestly surprised me, or I guess I should say it keeps surprising me, that most people, even at very high price points, still don't understand what it means to create a luxury experience. And it's so interesting from the customer's perspective that you can totally feel luxury. And most people, it's not about, oh, it's the nicest ballroom or the nicest dining room. It comes back to all of those little tiny things. And so those are some of the mistakes that I see when people think they know luxury and think, oh, I'll just make it look fancy, and they miss the mark. So that's kind of a lot of what we're going to talk about, plus just kind of catch up on where I've been. And you guys know the drill. If you haven't already, please like, subscribe, and make sure to forward this podcast to a friend who knows luxury, wants to know luxury, or just wants to catch up. All right. So let's jump in. So I went on this Virgin Atlantic cruise and it was, I've got to tell you, really great. I had no idea that, first of all, I had no idea that Virgin had cruises, I don't think. And unlike a lot of other cruises, it was definitely one of the bigger ships, I guess you call it, yacht ships. And, you know, a lot of times that can feel like it's just you're a number and it's a cattle call. Well, I have to tell you, they did so many things right. Like, there were a lot of people on board. There were certainly a lot of like moving parts, but you never felt like, I mean, maybe a little bit in the dining rooms. The dining rooms are busy, like you had to have reservations, but that's everywhere. But you never felt like the communal spaces were packed or like you couldn't, like there wasn't room for you. Like they had this bar called Sip, and it was just like big chairs, tables. Since they say it was this work cruise, I was on this thing called like San Juan Social Club, which I'd never been a part of. And it's all about investors and people looking for investments. And so I think some of you guys know I've been working on this project to prevent the spread of wildfires called Say Yes to Sheep. So I was on there with pitching my deck, and it was really good because you could just veg out if you wanted to veg out and like sit out by the pool, or you could hang out. Now, you guys know I have 3 kids. I mean, they're getting older, obviously, but it was really nice that it was an adults only cruise. I did not realize what a difference that made, but it makes a big difference. And so maybe that's why it felt just so much more chill. We were headed to the British Virgin Islands. So I flew from LA and then to San Juan, Puerto Rico. And then from San Juan, you board the ship and it's like a Saturday to Saturday, a full week. And we went all through the British Virgin Islands, Tortola and St. Martin, all that. Now, I was there to work. So I got to tell you, it was kind of sad on my half that I didn't get to every single island. I mean, ship was in every single island at the port, but I personally didn't get to experience all of it because I was like doing my deals. And the good news is, you know, we did get $2 million in POs from one group, and we got kind of, I'm not going to say the name now, until it's all inked, but there's some small homes that we're going to be in going forward. So that was a real boost to my project and to getting funding in that seed round. But I didn't get as much like relaxed time. I don't know if any of you guys have been there, like when your mind is just preoccupied. You sometimes just don't get to, you just got to do what you got to do, right? And in that case, I need to do a lot of work. Now, fortunately, I'm part of this group called C-Suite Network with Jeffrey Hazlett. And if you haven't seen the interview I did with him on the podcast, you should, because we talk about the cruise. And of course, now it's after the cruise. But it's really great because it's just a lot of like C-level people, very cool, very smart, really know what they want. And also they are working on this whole project in Roatan. Talk about luxury. There's all these expats kind of, or Americans heading to Roatan for these amazing developments they're putting together. So you might see another podcast with me from Roatan because I've already been 3 times. Kind of love it, got to tell you. And now my daughter, spoiler alert, not really. She just committed to University of Miami's business school. So guess what? I can go to Roatan all the time. I'm going to be an empty nester. So let's go back to the point, because I'm rambling, about luxury. So luxury is so important that it not feel transactional. And that doesn't mean that you don't have systems and protocols and everything around. Obviously, like on the Virgin cruise, you did, right? You had, you could get off the cruise at this time and you had to, scan your deal. But the cool thing about Virgin was you had this little bracelet and you could scan it. Now, I was on a cruise last year, a business cruise, and you still had to scan your badge and all this other stuff. This was so much simpler. This thing just was like your ticket to everything. And the other thing was they were pretty chill about when you had to disembark. And they kept reminding you to disembark like when the cruise was over. But it was just streamlined and easy. And that was the first step towards a really great service experience. Now, right now, I'm in Marbella in Spain, which is one of the most beautiful places. Fortunately, I've been here twice. The last time I was here, I was a lot younger, and I was with my family, and I got locked out of my room in my bikini. And it was a bikini, from what I remember, my mom thought was too small to start with, and I had to go all around looking for somebody to try to let me in. I mean, talk about a train wreck. But here I'm in Marbella with my daughter celebrating her 18th birthday and one of her friends and their moms. And it has been beautiful. And we're staying at this resort called Puente Romano. Now, I last time had stayed at the Marbella Club and I haven't seen it this time. It was amazing and fabulous and just, it's hard to explain what like ritzy, fabulous coast of Spain is versus the US, but it just feels very elevated. There are Americans here, like there are Americans everywhere, but there are a lot of Europeans. And I just have to say, I don't think I've seen one hoodie. And I am so happy. Shout out for the mothers who are so tired of seeing their kids in hoodies, which is me, and the sloppy factor. I just am really big on, let's just put ourselves a little bit together because it makes the people watching fabulous. I realize that's not the whole point, is just to have people watch you. But I got to tell you, when you're on vacation and people are just making an effort, and I'm not telling you that they're like all tricked out in Dior, a lot of them are, but just when you see the makeup or the sunglasses and the effort they put in, a little bit of jewelry and, oh my God, cologne and perfume, which I just love. But back to Puente Romano. One of the things is so successful here. So this place is pretty big. I still haven't figured it out. There's like a Nobu hotel here. There's this hotel part called Puente Romano, which are these individual, kind of like hotel rooms and stuff. They're stacked. But I guess it's also you can have a house here. I think you can probably have like a house kind of timeshare stuff. Because I heard some Norwegians talking, and these girls were saying that they are from Norway. They spend 5 months here and the rest of the time in Oslo, which sounds like a pretty good life to me. But so you can tell that some people are definitely here regularly. But how it's set up is like there's this Nobu hotel. So, of course, Nobu, the Nobu. And then you have the Nobu restaurant. And then you have all this Puente Romano stuff. And they have tons of restaurants. Okay, so they have one that's just like, I'm telling you, is the best freaking, what is it called? Piki or something like that. Pika. The best pizza I've ever eaten in my entire life. It's super thin, and instead of regular like green pesto, it's red pesto. And even though I cook, I was kind of like, wait, what's the deal? The pesto stuff, but instead of basil, it's dried peppers and probably like fresh peppers too, into this paste. It is so good. I can't even tell you. I don't know how many pizzas I've eaten since I've been here, and I'm just all about it. Now, this is a really casual place. They have very fancy places. Obviously, Nobu is fancy, but and the pizza place is very casual, but it feels luxurious. Why? So first of all, there's somebody at the desk. Right away, they are like, "Hi, how can I help you?" It's not like you're looking around. That's the biggest buzzkill of luxury or great experiences in general, is looking for staff. Okay, heads up. Sorry, Virgin. The one thing that they really tried hard. But the one thing is when we were on Virgin, and kind of this group would gather in the galley, this C-suite group, and that was the part that's, it's like the big sort of open part that's sort of always open for food. It's kind of like a cafeteria style. It's really nice. Like they have bento boxes and all that stuff. So I'm not saying it's not nice, but we were always kind of positioned down the middle of this kind of sort of like office hours. And the one thing is people would make fun of me because they have those little signs that sit on your table. It's like this high, right? And there's this little flag that you can put up and it's like, need service. And the flag is like this big, right? And it's sitting on the table. I'm like, there's nobody that's ever going to see this. Well, nobody ever did see it. So every time somebody at our table needed something, I would just like stand up and hold the flag. And I don't know if it was because their cameras were, people were like, yes, how can I help you? And I thought, this is magic. And so we made friends with this one waitress, and she just took care of us the whole freaking time. And from that point on, it was amazing because it was like you just kind of looked around, or we looked towards her, and boom, amazing service. And she made that human connection with us. She was joking with us. I was like, oh, Jeffrey, that's the rich guy. He's going to tip you well. Don't worry, which he did. But we kind of had this human connection. And that's another really important point about all this stuff, is the human connection and really feeling like you're welcome. Now, going back to Puente Romano, the service, so there's always somebody checking in at the desk. Then you sit at the bar and they immediately greet you, right? How many times have you had to be like, hi, you-hoo? Like, do you know I'm here? Like, bartender, there's only 2 other people. No, not here. They're like, hi, and greeting you, and here's the menu, and like really want to anticipate and take your order. Well, the table didn't take very long, even though we didn't have reservations. And then we sat down. Again, super friendly, super efficient, great with the recommendations about the pizza. They let us split all kinds of things. And then we were like, oh, my daughter had bad jet lag. So we were like, can we take some back to the room? I mean, it was boxes. It was just, and they were really, really efficient. Not to mention, I had the most amazing peanut butter and jelly. Yes, like with like Meghan Markle jam, not Meghan Markle, but like jam kind of at the bottom. And I am obsessed with peanut butter, and I'm obsessed with peanut butter sandwiches. So I haven't had any since I've been on the trip, but I did have that Sunday, and it was so freaking good. And then they were just cheerful, and then you kind of went on your way. But that is luxury. That is feeling like you don't have a care in the world and you don't have to worry about anything. Now, the other really cool thing too about this place is how it's laid out. So it's got this hotel. I call it kind of like skiing lanes. Like you check in like here, and then there are these lanes down that all go down to the water, like 4 of them. And that's where kind of how the housing is. And then there's different pools and everything. And the one other great point is there is signage everywhere. I am somebody who gets lost. This place is very lush with trees and all that. I'm telling you, every point, like every like even curve, feel like this place is this way, this place is this way, so that you don't get lost. I love that. But they have something I've never seen before. And so with like the Nobu Hotel, then they've got the Nobu restaurant, right? They have like these other restaurants, like one's called Lenya, and they have like, it's almost, you enter them from different points, right? So you're kind of sitting up here. It's almost like stadium style. That sounds horrible. The restaurants are gorgeous. It's like this. And then down a little bit, there's kind of this lower seating area. Well, I guess that whole area turns into a nightclub later. And so what happens is you're sitting kind of at all, like on all these benches, and like, not benches, like kind of sofas around on one side. And you've got the little tables you can eat, and it's magic. Then on the Nobu side, you have like regular big tables because, of course, with sushi and all that, you're going to get a lot more food. And then they got this part down the middle. But the other cool thing was they had one live musician. And I thought, for people in the restaurant business, you guys are going to understand this. Live music is expensive. People love it, but it's expensive. But because it was so, like, you have this lower part, and then you've got all these restaurants kind of around it, and you have the live music, it just reverberated to all of them. And then I remember hearing this music when we were at the Pika Pika place. And I was like, wait a second. Yeah, because they're so smart. You can actually, they would just have the one live person and then have the speakers even at the pizza place. So you felt this really elevated experience. So this central restaurant thing became kind of like the energy hub. I don't know how else to say it, but a lot of times when people say, what's so great about, like, how do you create a great party, or how do you create a great guest list? Well, a lot of it is the energy, and the energy is magical, and you can curate it. You can't totally manufacture it, but you can definitely do certain things to make it feel really good. And one of the things, like, I don't know if you guys listened to our whole bridal series with Ashley, but she's our expat who's getting married in London. And we were talking about the size of the dance floor. And for her, the size of the dance floor, she was like, I don't think the dance floor is going to be big enough. And I'm like, remember, you want everybody to feel a little bit jammed in, like they want to get a spot on the dance floor. And that's how these restaurants felt. The vibe was there. The lighting was there. It was beautiful. It was like obviously the place to be there. And it had all of these multiple, like, sensory elements. Let's say you got there by yourself. Let's say we're just sitting at the bar. You could people watch till the cows come home. As I mentioned, the lighting, flowers, the music. So it wasn't just like you'd say, oh, I love the design. It's how everything interacted and how everything really felt. Now, one of the things that we're doing is we're getting ready to launch another kind of coaching program for current event planners or event planners who are people who just want to start an event planning business. And so I've been really in my head about creating kind of some of the curriculum and creating all these, like, tips and tools. And one of these pieces that I just rewrote, it was something that we had put out years and years ago called, like, my super secret party tips. And so I was working on it yesterday and kind of coming back to what makes a really great event, right? So that you could just download a copy of this, and the people in the course could download a copy, but you could just be regular hostess. You don't have to want to get into event planning, because there's so many things that people get wrong that are really easy to fix when they host events. So in this guide, and I'm just going to kind of highlight some of them here, because I think we all can have, like, a nice refresher, is one thing that is so important, I cannot emphasize this enough, is ice. I am in the event planning business, yet I can't tell you, it is always like we never have enough ice to chill. Remember, you can't chill your beer and then serve your ice. Like, huge no-no. Think of that. Like, you have that gross bottle of beer, God knows where it's been, and then it's in the ice, and then you're using that to scoop. No bueno. You don't want to have the ice bags out. Like, everything should feel like a curated experience. Like, even though the ice comes in big bags, you're going to have it in the tubs, and the tubs are going to be wrapped in, like, Velon or something to hide it. They're going to be tucked away. You're not going to have them in the red plastic bins. And so, like, having luxury, having a polished event is about really thinking about all of those little details. And keep something in mind. I always try to go for, like, 2 pounds of ice per person, because if it's hot, people are going to go through more drinks. It's going to take more ice to chill things. And then the other thing is if you have multiple bars, you're going to be spreading it around. And it's the biggest pain in the neck to send somebody out to get ice. They might be buzzed. Yes, I know you can have Uber do it, but ice is usually heavy and annoying, and you just don't want to bother. So just pay and, like, over ice the whole thing, so that this becomes one of the things that should never go wrong. Now, remember how I was talking about this amazing setup at Puente Romano, and the venue has just really created everything. So remember when I was saying that there's sort of like these ski lanes kind of heading down to the beach. So there's all these like, houses mixed with casitas and hotels and stuff, and then different pools in between. But everything is designed so that it's all very interactive, tons of energy, families coming up from the beach, people going down to dinner reservations, other families like crossing over so that they can get the kids at the kids club. And one of the real reasons that this place works is because they have really curated this venue to be an experience. How the guests flow, how they interact, how they, as I say, the check-in at the restaurant, but you really feel like the place is alive and like it's the place you want to be. And also you feel really taken care of because it's very efficient. And efficiency is so important with luxury. And how do you know something's efficient? Guess what? You didn't have to think about it. You weren't like, where's my valet? Where's my Stuff just shows up, whether it's a fresh glass of ice or, hi, may I take your order, or whatever it is. A new napkin if you lost yours. Those things make all the difference. And keep something in mind too about efficiency is it's like nobody remembers like how beautiful the flowers were if they're waiting in line for a drink or they're waiting in line for anything. So staffing is a huge, huge, huge thing. You've got to have enough staff. You can feel it when a place is understaffed, right? Because the waiters or waitresses don't even like look in your direction. They're totally distracted. It's like they don't want to make eye contact, and you feel so badly, right? Because they're running from one thing to another. Everybody's pulling at them. They can't remember like this order. So just having that kind of extra little bit of padding of staff is huge. The other thing I really like to do with our events is I like to have a floater. And what a floater is, so we of course have a structure to our events. We have the main person running it depending on the size. And then you've got the captain, and then you've got the chef and the cooks and servers and bartenders and all that stuff. But I like to have one floater who kind of is just roaming around with their eyes on things. They're not a bartender specifically. They could bartend. They're not in the kitchen. They're not the manager. They just are somebody that's kind of looking around, yes, at what guests might need. Like, do they look like they need a drink? You can go get a drink. Or do they look like, is the bartender going, I don't have enough ice? So the bartender doesn't have enough ice. They're like over there, and they're just constantly troubleshooting and spotting problems and trying to fix them. So when it comes to staff, first of all, there are tons of staffing guidelines out there, but I really recommend a floater. And if you're entertaining at home, I really, really, really recommend somebody to clean up at the end and stagger those people. Even if you're like, oh, I'm going to have, like, my kids are going to do it, or so-and-so's going to help. They're never going to do it, or not very well. So stagger somebody, because if you have a party, let's say that's like 6 to 10 or 6 to 11, have staff get there in the beginning early to help you set up so you can take a shower and like powder your nose. But then have a couple people come and relieve some of those earlier people, because they're going to be fresh. They're not going to be exhausted. And guess what? They're not going to be trying to run to get out of there, like as they're cleaning up. So keep that in mind. Now, when it comes to, I love the word curation, and like luxury isn't about having necessarily 5 million choices. Sometimes it is, right? Like they have this breakfast. I don't even know if you can call it buffet. It's like Thanksgiving, quite frankly, that I just came from. And it's like they have the squeezed juice bars, and then they have the fruit. Well, I got my little fruit plate today to try to keep me from eating everything else. And guess what? That was just the fruit that was supposed to be with the chocolate fountain, because there's kids. So the kids are getting the fruit with the chocolate fountain. Then there's this whole other table that's just like more fruit and vegetables at like, cooked kind of breakfasty brunch things. And then there's another area downstairs. So remember I talked to you guys about this kind of hub and the flow and the energy? They're super smart about this, because by having these food sections, by having the cappuccino people here kind of with the juices, and then having a space, and then having the fruit and chocolate, and then having space, and then having this other big round table. So people are sitting outside, can come in. There is no real line because there's no central spot. All the places are really amazing. So it's about, at the end of the day, really thinking through how you're going to do your layout and thinking through how you want things to flow, And instead of having one bar and one place for people to get food, think about where your entrances and your exits, even if it's just your living room or your apartment, and how can you make that flow a little bit better? Remember, the bar is always going to be a huge bottleneck. So I always try to put that in the least desirable place because no matter what, everybody's going to find it. So this is kind of my catch up of like what I've been up to and this whole mix of business and personal. And honestly, coming off this trip, since we have to go home tomorrow, which is so sad, I realize how scattered we are in life. And it's so funny because when I'm at home, one of the ways I just totally chill out is like binge. I can binge something on Netflix, right? Shout out to Tiger King, Free Joe Exotic. Love binging on any of that kind of amazing stuff. But going from the cruise where I'm still trying to follow up on all those leads and make sure I connect and make sure I stay in front of everybody, and then have Easter and then be celebrating my daughter's birthday, and then having her friends. And you realize as a mom how scattered you are. I'm sure dads are scattered too. But we just, all these moms, we just found out about where these girls are going to college. And oh my God, that has been raise your hand if that's been a nightmare for you. Drop me a message in the comments. Share this with a friend who needs to hear it because it has been brutal. And thank goodness we were all together for it. But the other thing I wanted to shout out is that I have been sleeping so much. At first, I was like, okay, we can kind of blame it on jet lag. Now, I don't know. I mean, this morning I got up for breakfast with the girls, the last breakfast we were all going to have together. And I'm telling you, I think I only got 9 hours of sleep. You would have thought I got 3. So it's a real reminder to me that I've been watching TV. I mean, it's almost 3 weeks. I think I've watched a total of half an hour of news or something, which is probably good these days. So I haven't been binging on anything. I've been really purposeful about our content. And if you haven't checked out our new Party Goddess website, you should, because it just launched, and getting the tweaks out of that. And then really digging in as far as what do you guys want to see for the podcast, what's working, what's not, and just digging into kind of the community and to the audience. And so that's my little note, shout out to you guys, that if any of you are feeling distracted, stressed, scattered, it's April here right now. I don't know. April to me is just, it can be a really tricky time. It just feels very busy because you're not out of school yet for the summer. But I don't know. I just feel all over the place. So find that spot for yourself for maybe a little bit of simplicity, just a little extra alone time, just a little extra being outside, catching your breath, writing in a journal. If you cry, you cry. I've done that a few times, which has kind of been weird. I'm like, what is going on? So whatever it is, let it out and sit back and kind of ask yourself, what is it that you want? If you're an event planner, do you want to be creating luxury experiences? If you're just listening to this, it's a time for a fun vacation. Is it time to retool your social media? It's the beginning of the second quarter. How'd the first quarter go? What worked, what didn't work? I'm a huge one for what worked and what didn't work, whether it comes to events or whether it comes to what we're working on. So don't forget to keep asking yourself those questions. And if you want things to be a little simpler, I think, which I do, then intentionally you got to look for it. Now, as I mentioned, we put together something that kind of encapsulates all these cool points about throwing an event and things a lot of people miss. So if you want that, go ahead and email us at info@thepartygoddess.com and just let us know, or mention it on Instagram and just say, hey, listen, I want that new, party planning report, and we'll totally send it your way. Because it's an easy read. It's simple, covers some of the points we covered here, but a lot more. And really it talks about not just how to throw a party, but what actually makes a party feel exceptional. And I don't know. It's something that I wish I had when I first started entertaining, because it demystifies a lot of it. So if you want an event that not only just looks good, but really feels good and kind of creates that buzz, then definitely this is what you want to get. So as I say, it's totally free. So the other thing is, if you want it done right, you want to have a party, of course, just call me and we will take care of that. So you guys, that's the update from beautiful Marbella, Spain. And as I mentioned, if you haven't already, please like, comment, subscribe. More importantly, tell a friend, share this with a friend. And those college struggles are real, boys and girls. So hang in there. I'm with you. I feel your pain. Go out and get some sunshine or take a walk. If it's still snowing where you are, maybe a little red light therapy. But anyway, I'm Marley Majcher, host of Every Day's a Train Wreck, and I will see you next week. Okay? Bye-bye.